Hello again, friends, and welcome back to Magnifica Wonders. Today, we want to look at a true but ancient account of signs and wonders from the book of Daniel. Now, although this happened thousands of years ago, it's incredibly relevant today and has major implications for your life. That's why we're looking at it. The account begins with a declaration, not by a prophet, or even a Jew for that matter, but by Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. To all peoples, nations, and languages throughout the world, it is my pleasure to make known the signs and wonders with which the Most High God has favored me. He then goes on by recounting a dream. Did you know that according to the Bible itself, dreams and dream-related events are considered signs and wonders? This is an incredible example of that, which is why there's a ton of stuff that we can learn from this dream. So let's go to Daniel chapter 4, and I'll give you the broad strokes. But listen, it's really worthwhile reading and praying about the full account on your own, so we certainly encourage you to do that. Nebuchadnezzar, the pagan king of Babylon, has this dream that really shakes him up. It fills him with dread, terrifies him. Obviously, he wants to know what the dream means. Now, in that day and age, a king typically surrounded himself with magicians and soothsayers and alleged wise men and counselors. But this Babylonian king, after the dream, sends for Daniel, a Jew, one of the exiles, and a young one at that. So what's the deal there? Well, we find out about how the Lord established Daniel as the best dream interpreter in the entire kingdom. We find out about that in chapter 2 of Daniel. But that's another wonder, so we'll keep it for another video. The point is, Daniel is sent for. All right, here's the essence of the dream from the book of Daniel. Nebuchadnezzar sees an enormous tree growing taller and taller, reaching right up to the heavens, visible to the ends of the earth. It's enormous. It's gorgeous, beautiful leaves, abundant fruit. It shelters beasts of the field and birds of the air. It's breathtakingly beautiful. Then there's a major shift in the dream. Nebuchadnezzar sees someone he refers to as a watcher, a holy one. This person, this being, comes down from heaven and cries aloud, "Cut the tree down, lop off its branches, strip off its leaves, and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts and the birds flee from it, but leave a stump in the earth bound with bands of iron and brass. Let his lot be with the beasts. Let his mind be changed to the mind of a beast, and let 7 times pass over him. Such is the sentence proclaimed, so that every living thing may know that the Most High rules the kingdom of men, gives it to whom he will, and sets it over the lowliest of men." End of dream. Not surprising he was shaken up, is it? Now, you've heard us say that an uninterpreted dream is like unopened mail. God gives us dreams to tell us something, right? To communicate. And we don't want to miss what he's saying. So, by our looking at Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, we can learn some things about how to interpret our own dreams. So, let's break it down. Let's look at the various elements and symbols of the dream, and let's look at the interpretation that Daniel gives it. The first question to ask is, what's the focus of the dream? Well, obviously, the tree is the focus. If you take the tree out of the dream falls apart. You essentially have no dream. Next, we'll look at other important elements that we'll call sub-focuses. Now, it's not just any tree or a typical tree, right? So the description of the immensity and splendor of the tree truly matters. That's a sub-focus. The watcher, this holy one that comes down from heaven, and his declaration, the stump, another, and finally, the passing over 7 times. These are all sub-focuses. We can also note a few details. In this case, the bands of brass and iron. All right, so we've identified the important elements, but what do they symbolize? You need to know that to understand the dream. Daniel is given the wisdom and revelation to interpret the symbols and the overall meaning of the dream, and that's important for us. This is where we begin to learn what biblical symbols mean or represent so that we can understand the symbols in our own dreams. So, for example, the huge, beautiful tree is a symbol of Nebuchadnezzar. So we learn that trees typically represent leaders or persons of great influence. The beautiful leaves, the fruit, the shelter, etc., that symbolizes the power and glory of his kingdom. The symbol fits, right? Nebuchadnezzar has conquered the known world, brought peace to his own and neighboring nations. He's prospering, sitting on top of a global empire. Life is good for Nebuchadnezzar. So for us, those symbols of lush leaves, vegetation, the fruit, etc., even the birds and the animals, in our dreams, these may be symbols of prosperity and fruitfulness. Get the connection? All right. But then remember, there's a major shift in the dream. So who's this watcher? Daniel explains that that's an angel sent by God with a message, and in this case, a warning. So, persons and beings that we don't recognize in our dreams may be messengers from God with a message for us also from God. Now, you don't want to miss that kind of dream, do you? All right. The stripping and cutting down of the tree and stripping of the leaves, etc., leaving the stump. Roaming with animals, eating grass, growing claws, etc. This is symbolic language telling Nebuchadnezzar that he's to be stripped of his glory and splendor. He's to lose his reason and live in the wild among the beasts. Now, and in this case, some of those symbols are actually literal, not only symbolic. Now, what about being bound by bands of brass and iron? Well, Daniel would have known about Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 23. Here's what it reads. And the heavens over your head shall be brass, and the earth under your feet shall be bronze. So this symbol means that neither heaven or earth will help or assist Nebuchadnezzar during this season. He'll be bound rather than blessed. And finally, for how long? Well, Daniel interprets the 7 times passing over as 7 years. Now, why does 7 times passing over mean 7 years? Why not 7 days or 7 months? How does Daniel know it's 7 years? By revelation from God. Remember, that's what set Daniel apart from the magicians. He received supernatural help from God to interpret dreams. His interpretation reveals that the angel's declaration is God's warning of what's to occur to Nebuchadnezzar. Now, something really important occurs here. In chapter 4, after interpreting the dream, Daniel adds what amounts to a prophetic word for Nebuchadnezzar. It's not in the dream per se, but it is a word of revelation and inspiration from the Lord about how to respond to the dream. Daniel essentially calls Nebuchadnezzar to repent and acknowledge the sovereignty of God. Now, this is big. What is foretold in the dream can be averted if Nebuchadnezzar repents. But even though God warned him through this dream and Daniel's interpretation of it, and even though God gives him 12 months to respond, Nebuchadnezzar ignores the warning. He does not repent. So, a year later, still all puffed up with himself, probably overlooking his kingdom from a balcony, knocking back a few margaritas, congratulating himself on all his accomplishments, but then the angel returns and makes the same declaration. And boom! The word of the Lord is immediately fulfilled. Everything foretold in the dream comes to pass. Nebuchadnezzar essentially goes mad. He's stripped of his kingdom and spends 7 years living in the wild like an animal, as the dream foretold. 7 years later, when the appointed time has come to an end, Nebuchadnezzar is a changed man. Just as quickly, his reason and his kingdom are restored to him. And not only has he been humbled, but converted. He's come to know personally and experientially that the Most High, the God of Israel, is the one true God over all the earth. That God is sovereign. He rules, that nothing can thwart the fulfillment of His plans. Nebuchadnezzar now knows that his accomplishments were thanks to the will and favor of God, not his own cleverness or power. He's been humbled, and he blesses the Lord. In return, like Job, everything is abundantly restored to Nebuchadnezzar. Isn't that incredible? Now, these events truly happened. These are historical. Nebuchadnezzar might have been a king, but he was just a human being. Like you and me, he needed sleep. You know, it's kind of amazing to think that if Nebuchadnezzar had repented when he first had the dream, he wouldn't have had to go through those 7 years of madness. And that's really the point of this video. Dreams, even disturbing warning dreams, can play a truly significant role in your relationship with God. Would you want to miss a warning dream from God that could help you avoid years of difficulties? A warning dream isn't a bad thing. It's a grace, a gift from your loving Father. The warning is given to you so that you can pray and respond and avert whatever is revealed. So don't be afraid of your dreams. We speak from experience, and in Linda's case, decades of experience. Interpreting your dreams will add, frankly, another rather exciting supernatural dimension to your life and to your spiritual life. So, in a future video, we'll share with you an actual warning dream the Lord gave Linda and illustrate how much it helped her. Why not help us spread the word about dreams and interpreting dreams? And share this video with someone you know who sleeps on a regular basis. Thanks so much for watching. Linda and I pray that the Lord truly bless and anoint not only your sleep, but also your dreams. Bye for now.